Okay. Welcome to Fanning Out, a podcast where we dig into our fandom. I'm Valerie Gritch, an independent fan studies scholar who wants to share our interests and examine why we feel the way we do about them. Basically, what matters to you and why should it matter to everyone else. And this episode, I'm joined by Rich. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Rich Baxter. Val and I go way, 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 way back. I feel like I'm trying to do the math in my head. Like,
I
is
did the
it?
math. It's almost 20
It
years.
is. I was literally going to
Yeah.
say it's almost 20 years. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Back when I live in Toronto now, but I'm originally from Jersey. Val and I ran in the same circles musically, kind of, when I was going to school in the city, and our love for the same band actually, but also like adjacent bands that were kind of in that world. And I've always loved Val's passion for music and fandom because I'm very passionate about my likes and interests, and like music has always soundtracked my life similar to Val. My dad, my biological dad, when I was, I think, a baby, even before I was born, he was a DJ and like super into Michael Jackson and would like dress up in like the mask, the glove. So it's kind of like in my DNA. I don't have any musical ability, unfortunately, um, but very, very agnostic to genre almost outside of like a handful. So this should be a lot of fun, and we'll probably geek out for the next little while on everything that we love.
I would love it. I'm so excited.
Name
And Rich is my first guest here. And I knew when I was starting this, I was like, I need to get Rich on board because Rich just gets me in a way that very few people do when it comes to our music fandom, especially. Um, so I'm so hyped. So why don't you tell us what and who you fan out about and how you've discovered them, how you became a fan?
Totally. I fan out about a lot of artists. I've always loved pop music. Like growing up watching, like, I would dance in front of the TV to Michael Jackson, like Janet, Madonna, Paula Abdul. Um, and kind of the idea of pop, for me at least, has really shape-shifted over the years. I kind of feel like anything can be pop, but there are a handful of artists. I actually thought about this. I was traveling to Vegas in January to see Ashlee Simpson, who we'll probably exclusively talk about. I was thinking, I was like, what artist, as I'm 30, 36, yeah. I was thinking in terms of like decades, like what artists have like been the soundtracks to my life. And I think of when I was a little kid, Michael Jackson was always kind of around in that. I remember the Dangerous record. I was just so captivated by the artwork. Like it's like one of my favorite album covers because it's so gaudy and over the top. So I was like, okay, like that makes sense to assign like until like my teenage years. And then it was definitely Ashley once she kind of, started to switch gears and get into the music industry, which I would say until like my like mid 20s. And then I sort of fell backwards a little bit into being a big fan of Ariana Grande. I really attribute one of my friends that I went to school with. She would always play her in the car when we would drive around, and I think I was still kind of in like the back half of like really like tunnel visioning into my emo era. So once like I was focused on there, I kind of like rejected pop, I suppose, as like, I don't know, some like rebellious like 20-year-old kid. Um, but I love her knack of taking like complex human emotions and like distilling them into pop music. And coincidentally, I don't, the universe, the stars aligning, whatever, her last several albums have kind of met me at a time in my life where I was like, oh, what she's talking about on these records is what I'm experiencing. So that kind of really solidified my I guess like adoration for her would be the word. And then now I'm kind of in my 30s. I've been a fan of Charlie XCX for quite a while. Not since the beginning, like shortly after the beginning of her career, but Brat has really, this last 2 years, quickly has become like one of the albums that has like defined my life with like some of the topics that she was talking on the record. I was kind of like examining myself and like certain insecurities and relationships in real time as the record was coming out. And it was such a unique experience for me as a fan of music and a fan of her. And that each artist has kind of really shaped my tastes within that chapter of my life, whether it was, the entertainer when I was a little boy, or, I would say like Ashley kind of like opened the door to kind of like the pop rock sound that got me into my emo era. Um, Ariana, I guess, just for, the emotional, but Charlie, I really credit to me kind of being more into the electronic dance world right now. But back to Ashley, I have this like very vivid memory of her when I was, when did Autobiography come out? 2004. I must have been like 13 or 14 because it came out, I think Pieces of Me dropped that summer. My birthday's in the fall. So I must have been, yeah, 13 or 14. And I remember being on the family computer, and it was during like the thick of like the MTV TRL generation that we grew up with. Um, I think they had something called like MTV Overdrive where they would have like a single premiere or like an album premiere, and you can like stream it for free before like it officially came out. So I think this was when the show was about to premiere, her reality show, and Pieces of Me was up somewhere, and I was kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever, like another pop star, like I will get around to this eventually, kind of thing. I don't remember what else I was listening to at the time when I was 13. Yeah, I don't remember why I just wouldn't not seek it out right away. But I sat on it. I did sit on it. And I think it came across me somehow, and I was like, oh, this isn't bad. Like I like this, like cute. I wasn't a huge fan of Jessica, like the singles and like the popular songs I was. But I wasn't as like Britney was my pop star, like full disclosure, she was. She
Of
always will be.
course.
Yeah, of course. Um,
For a good
and
reason.
oh my God, yeah,
Yeah.
we could talk a long time about Britney too. Um, And then I think the show premiered, and it became less about the music for me. And it became more about like her as a personality, because I was 13, 14 at the time. And she was, I think, 19 when the show aired, or was filming, whatever. Um, and I think there was just something that I really saw in her as kind of like this, not to sound like parasocial or anything like that, but like I think looking back now, because I've thought about this, like seeing her perform in Vegas, like over the last few months, and kind of like coming full circle back to like my 14-year-old self, I feel like I always kind of saw her as this, like definitely a role model, but like kind of like this, like cool girl, like in the neighborhood that like lives on your block, that like, I don't know, that you just like hang out with, and like you kind of like see as like a role model, or like that cool older big sister. I am the oldest sibling, so I never had like that kind of, relationship. But it was week after week that I just became like very enamored with her and her personality. I thought she was fun. I thought she was silly. Um, I thought she was talented back then. I thought she had a great sound, and I was just, yeah, I just like hooked and like hungry for more. It was when I was a kid, it was always Michael that had me glued, and then once Britney had came out, she had me glued. And I think the next iteration of that was Ashley.
That's so cool. And just to say, there's nothing wrong with being parasocial. We're all parasocial to
I
certain
know.
degrees.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I think back in the day, like when like it's so easy like in New York to like meet like musicians, celebrities, like famous people,
yeah,
whatever. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh, I can't believe like my younger self would like wait outside hotels to like say hi and like take a picture. And like I do kind of like with that, because I do, as I've gotten older with like being a fan of Ashley, like I do, I guess that allure of like musician, celebrity, whatever is kind of faded. And I'm like, wait, no, these are like real people too, kind of thing. So I always have tried to maintain a level of like respect in regards to that when I'm interacting with her. But sometimes I can't help but like get excited, and I'm a person that feels like pretty intensely. So something that might be like a 3 for somebody might be like an 8 for me, and that like that can happen when something feels like not so great. But if I'm like really excited and back something, like I will like shout it from the rooftops kind of thing. So I can get pretty excitable, but like I've learned to manage that when
I
I'm
think
older.
though it's what you mentioned about treating them like a person goes such a long way because so many people don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think um and I'm sure we'll get into this, is that they recognize that within you and that they say like, all right, this person's like cool. Like
Yeah, totally.
even if you are more intense and very excitable, um, if there can still be like this person like sees that I'm a person, and that goes a really long way in having a parasocial but not kind of weird relationship with the object of your fandom where it's like they know who you are and things like that, and they know you're not going to like murder them or something like
Right.
that.
Totally, totally. Yeah. No, I completely agree because I feel like that has been a huge foundation for the sort of connection I'll say that I have with her because I don't get to see her that often just with how she navigates her career and kind of balancing with, being a mom. She has been inactive, for quite a while, but she'll dip her toes in and out. And then, of course, we had the pandemic, which, probably like shot some plans in the foot kind of thing. But it's very nice that I can have these long gaps of not seeing her and she remembers me and we're normal and we're cool and like there's just like that mutual respect there. Like I think the first time I ever realized it was when it was a long time ago. I think it was in like 2010. Um, it was a couple friends and I think she was still with Pete at the time. Um, and they were waiting to see Pete, and I was obviously there to see Ashlee. And I remember she came back from somewhere, and we were outside the hotel, and she had Bronx with her. And Bronx was, I think, like one or two, and she came up to me and gave me a hug, and I was like, oh, I was like, this is like
That's such a
this
sweet moment.
yeah, I'm like, this is like not your normal interaction. And I'm like, it's kind of cool that she trusts me as like a fan, but like still like relatively a stranger to like come up and, say hi and spend time with, her kid, like with what you just,
Right.
yeah, it can potentially go left if someone gets too excited. So I think that's when I started to realize being like, oh, like this is a little bit different than just kind of like, hi, can I have a picture? And we can like talk, blah, blah, blah. So that, yeah, it's been quite surreal having that sort of connection with her. I like think back to like my 14-year-old self and I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, it's cool. It's nice.
Yeah, it's a really surreal feeling, I think is the perfect word, when you
Mhm.
have that sort of connection with a celebrity that you admire so much. Um, and that's just such a sweet, like, show of how much she trusted you. I
Right.
think that she brought her child around you.
Mhm.
That's incredible to me. Um, so we know who you're a fan of now, the lovely Ashlee Simpson. So how do you fan out? Like, how does it manifest itself? I know you go to concerts,
Mhm.
do you collect things, stuff like that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, yeah. Concerts are a big one, especially if I'm super plugged into like any artist or like the record I really identify with, I have to go see it live. It's just a different like environment, and I know I don't have to tell you this, but there's just something about like live music and like taking something that's like produced and something that you can play all the time, whether it's streaming, physical, whatever, but just having the energy of that performance. And I guess I would describe myself as having that performance bug. I grew up dancing, so I've been on stage a lot of my life. So I love that kind of interaction with performer in the crowd and just having the energy of the fans around you is really, really cool. Um, and kind of like similar when it comes to physical media, if it kind of varies, like if I really like the world that's kind of built around an album. I guess I will use not Brat, but Charlie's record before that Crash. I really, really loved the visuals for that. And I was like, I just need this physically. I need this CD. I need whatever. Um, so that would be an example of something that's like looks cool for lack of better words. Again, if I love the album, I got a little bit loose with I'm a vinyl collector, so it was during the pandemic where I was like, yeah, like these records are important. Like let me just have them in my collection. So I have a bloated one, but I've since gone back to like my strict rule of like if I love a record like front to back, I want it in some physical form, and usually vinyl's the route that I go for. But if I like love like fully stand someone, I'll go like the extra mile. Um, it depends on what the record means to me. Like with Brat especially, I tried to get my hands on any and like everything. Like I have like the regular CD, I have the remix album, I have the exclusive vinyl. I usually have like another rule with vinyl, like just one because I don't need multiple copies, but Brat is probably the one that I have most. There was there was a variant that I think it was Bad World over in the UK press. They had like some like white powder vinyl, and I was like, this is genius, like marketing, packaging. I'm like, I need this. There was like this zine that like closed out that's like it's supposed to be destroyed. Like you're supposed to like rip it open and the pages are supposed to fall out. And I'm like, nope, like I'm gonna keep this like pristine as it is. I'm
Right.
sure I'll
Yeah.
one day. Um, there's the movie that came out with it too. There's like merch from like the movie. So it really depends on how much I adopt said record as like my personality, I suppose, not to like put on a mask and say that like I shapeshift with whatever music, but certain artists, certain music will bring out like the different side of me that kind of, makes up the no pun intended, the pieces of me.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I love that though, and I think there's something really special about vinyl, and that's why so many people have returned to it. It's just, getting the album artwork so
Hmm.
uh beautifully done, the packaging that can be done, the way that they're pressed with like different variants. Like I'm definitely guilty of having far too many pressings of the same record
Hmm.
for Frank Turner. Um, it's a problem, and I kind of had to like rein it in the last couple of years, and I'm like, I don't need a third, a fourth, a fifth copy of this
Sometimes like
album.
the pressings are so like I like to kind of like go when there's variants. Like I'm not too much like of a stickler on it, but like when there's a variant that like matches like the color that I feel like the music is, or like matches like the color of the album cover. I'm like,
Hmm.
I know it's like my favorite vinyl actually is Ariana Grande's Sweetener record. It's they have like a peach variant, and it's just so it's like this peach marble with like a little bit of like yellow and blue in it, and it just perfectly matches like the aesthetic of the era. Like that really just like checks every box in there. So that's when I'll get a little bit looser and be like, you know what? We can have multiple of this. Like this is just like a collector's item that just stays there instead of something I like actively play. Um, but yeah, I feel you on that one. Like it can get pretty wide when there's
Yeah,
just cool variants out there.
you get fast and loose with that credit card,
Hmm.
and you're just like, yeah, I need it immediately,
Yeah,
and then you get to hold it, and that it's so special, I think, being able to hold the music and
yeah.
like
Mhm.
experience it um, through vinyl, especially. It kind of makes you feel connected to like the greater music world, I think, because it's such an old technology.
Yeah, there's something like nice about having something that's like physical and like tangible that like you can like touch and like have instead of like just like on my phone or like in like my like streaming library and like playlists. I'm always a big fan of physical media if I like really love something.
Yeah. And of course, the physical media always helps the artist more, so we love that too.
Mhm. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. So, you told us a little bit so far. What makes pop music, Ashlee Simpson, stand out from your other interests?
I think when it comes to Ashley, I tend to look at the group of like similar artists that were in that kind of pop rock sound at the time, and I think I'm not fairly confident, so I won't like assign like a percentage or a number to it. But I think a lot of them worked with the same team, which was John Shanks and Cara DioGuardi. Um, I know Hilary Duff worked with them. I don't think Avril did. I know Avril worked with The Matrix, He Who Shall Not Be Named. Um, Kelly Clarkson, I don't know. Oh no, I think Kelly worked with John and Cara and a little bit of the other person. But it was always kind of like this a similar like through line between them where it was pop music and, very simple lyrics and melodies. But something that rooted it in, top 40 accessibility while having a little bit of that edge. And I do like Avril. Kelly Clarkson, like some of the hits, Hillary, like not too big of a fan, but it was always, I think Ashlee with her personality and just like watching her on TV has a huge part of me being a fan because it's not just the music, it is her as well. Um, and the way that she has been on her reality shows and interviews, what have you, she's the exact same in person. There's no editing, there's no like anything to like frame her as like this like character on TV. She is the same. So I think that plays a good deal, but I think truthfully, I think she's extremely talented and also kind of possessing some of the qualities that I like and some of the artists that I'm a big fan of today. I mean, a lot of her records were created when she was like late teens, like early 20s. Um, a lot of it does like capture like early heartbreak and like finding who you are and like just kind of leaving that like young adolescence and kind of growing into that young adult. And I look back now and I'm like, this was somebody who, had like a great message in her lyrics, and really helped me kind of, have this idea of who I wanted to be as a person, whether it's, I think a lot of it kind of came out on the third record, Bittersweet World, where it was less about like relationships and heartbreak and things like that. And kind of, I think of she has one song in the record called What I've Become. And it's about like fame and like kind of like dealing with that in her specific, lens. But I think, when I was 20, and I think that record came out 19 or 20, um, that's a big like development age for like any like individual in that age bracket. And kind of, at that time I was kind of freshly coming out and like figuring that part of myself out and like sharing it with people. Um, I know a lot of her when I see some of her like inner circle, whether it's like her mom or like her friends at like shows. Um, we've had conversations about like some of the fans coming back like so long and how, they have like attributed her, especially with like what she's gone through in her career and kind of, this underdog and like kind of this media backlash with some of her performances. Um, and kind of just like picking herself back up and dusting off. Like I think that also lesson has been something that myself and I know a lot of other her friends have taken away from her, especially gay men like me who were maybe in the closet, maybe coming out of the closet when she was kind of going through those early obstacles in her career that I think helps solidify being a fan and being connected to her as an artist.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that makes total sense that as you're facing these obstacles in your life, that you would gravitate towards somebody who's also seemingly going through obstacles and you can like have her as your champion, her your older sister, like you said. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's so fantastic that you can have somebody like that. I think it's really important to have somebody like that in your life. And again, like it's parasocial, but like it's wholesome at the same
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, it's harmless. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've always used like music as like a means to like express myself. I'm getting better at it now as I'm older, but it's still like a little bit fresh for me where I've always had a little bit of a hard time like describing how I'm feeling and not really having the words for like said emotions or feelings. So I've always kind of, listened to music as kind of a way to understand myself.
Right.
And I think she during that during like my like adolescence. I think she was a big part of that, and even now, it's when she did her Vegas residency from like in the fall. There was the first run, and then there was a few dates in January. And I still listen to Ashlee. I don't like drill her constantly like I do like some sort of artist that I listen to. But I remember flying there and then I was obviously getting excited, like listening to the music and then seeing these songs performed live for the first time in like 20 years. And I didn't really get the chance to see Ashlee live too much. I was so dancing as a kid, I was always very, very busy. And I would compete and I would be very busy on weekends, whether it's like rehearsing or actually at competitions, where I missed the autobiography tour because I had a dance competition that weekend and I couldn't get out of it. So I didn't see that album perform live. And then when she released her second record, there was a few different like legs. There was like a small like showcase club tour, and then there was like an expanded tour at Starland Ballroom. And then she did the official tour at PNC down in Jersey by where we live. Um, so before she kind of, switched gears and took a break from the industry, I only saw her like 3 times live. And then right before the pandemic, she did the run with her husband, Evan, the project that they released. So bringing that back to today, like seeing her perform these songs live, I'm like, wow, like I understood these when I was like 14, but I didn't live some of these experiences that she's talking about until like now, like as I in these 20 years that she's been, been a mom and doing other adventures in her career that are separate from music. And it just kind of it was this really nice full circle moment these last like 6 months and kind of just like tapping back into that side of myself, but also like I suppose holding space for like my current self and just kind of reflecting internally and just being like, wow, like this music has been pretty timeless for me. And like she probably out of everyone, like as some of the artists that I name check, she's probably been like the one artist who's soundtracked my life for sure, I would be able to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice that you can like honor your childhood self and your desires that you missed out on, and have those moments now, and that it's still just as meaningful for you, if not
Yeah,
more so.
yeah, totally, 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 totally. It's brought me back to myself. I would say the last few years I've had a bit of a rocky time in life. And when I went to go see her for the first time in Vegas at the end of August, I was like, oh, like this makes me feel more like myself than I have in years, but like a very long time. Like I felt naturally just like who I am. And that would be like that 14-year-old kid on the computer, like discovering.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so sweet. And I'm glad that you had that moment.
Me too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't like going to Vegas. I'm not good with like time zone changes. I get like
Mhm.
really in my head about it, and I'm always like, ugh. I'm like, it's like midnight on the East Coast, but like 9 a.m. here. And if I'm going to see a show, it's going to be so late. And I do love the night, and I'm very much so a night person. But when I get too up here, then I just like exhaust myself. But it was actually not that bad. I handled it pretty well, and I was my first solo travel too. Um, I don't like to. Some of my insecurities that I have is like I don't like doing things by myself. So that was like a big deal for me, and it was so
Mhm.
relaxed. It was so nice just to like do my thing and not like worry about anything, and make friends with other fans that were there. Because there's only a few of us. There's only a few of us hardcore Ashlee fans. So I'm aware of certain people
Mhm.
online. I've never had really like the privilege to meet them in person because we usually live on opposite sides of the country. There's a girl named Jackie. She lives in LA. Um, and I would say that she is probably like the female equivalent of me when it comes to like Ashlee fans. And she actually she works at Interscope, I believe, and she's been able to like work directly with Ashlee on a few projects.
Oh, that's
Specific,
so cool.
yeah, it's really really cool. Specifically, like the autobiography, like 20th anniversary. So I had the chance to meet her there. Um,
It's so
and
wild meeting people that you're aware of from your
Mhm.
fandom spaces in person for the first time, because it's just like there's just no awkwardness really. It's just like, and we're best friends. And we
Yeah,
know like we vibe, we get each other.
yeah, she was so nice, so sweet. Um, and that first weekend, there was kind of, a lot of fans, and I met some people that she was friends with. And there's a girl, her name is Leah, and she actually runs a podcast that's exclusive to Ashlee and Jessica. And we grew up in like the same town in like the middle of nowhere in New Jersey. We went to the same dance studio. She danced in like my sister's group, not like with me. Um, but obviously like lost touch from like when we were like 11 years old to like our mid 30s. And she was there and I was like, oh my God, I'm like, this is so crazy. I'm like, we're the only two from the same like nothing town in New Jersey. I'm like, this is kind of crazy. So it's cool to have that reconnection over like our love for Ashlee and Jessica and meet like other people. And, you know, Jackie is very close to Vegas because she lives in LA. So she went to all the shows. So there'd be, you know, just times where I would like fly in. I went a couple times. And it would just be her and I, and just kind of just sharing those moments together has been like so, so cool because I know she fully gets it in the way that like I do in this kind of like unspoken way. So it's been really, 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 really nice to, you know, meet her and get to know her because it's just, it's a very different like understanding compared to like a casual fan. You know what I mean? Everyone was
Yeah,
like a
absolutely.
10 for Ashlee there, but it was really cool to like share the experience with somebody who's been, you know, such a diehard fan like myself, um, who's been waiting as long as like I have for like this return to music that she's done.
Absolutely. And I know that you had some special moments. You got to go on stage with Ashley at some of those shows too.
Yeah, that was crazy. So it was the first show. It was the first show. I was there for the first two shows the first weekend. And I drank a little bit too much on that first show. So I don't really remember what exactly happened. It was she has this song on Bittersweet World called Boys, and it's like a dancey track. It's very much so in the veins for me, Love Fool by the Cardigans. Um, and she I think motioned to somebody or said something like I heard like come on stage and then there was this kind of like long couple of seconds where I was processing it, but then at the same time I was just involuntarily like okie dokie because I'm seeing two other people on the stage, so I'm like I'm not gonna get in trouble. And then like the rest was history. There's like talk within some of the fans where there's his name is Derek and he's a big like Jessica fan and Ashlee fan as well. And the Simpson team is very familiar with him and they know him and I don't know the details of their relationship, but um a few of the girls that I met were like, yeah, like Derek just went up on stage and that just kind of triggered it. So it might have been Derek too. I don't remember. But yeah, it was just wild, just like being on stage with her and like dancing to like boys. And then it just be kind of became a thing like night after night. And you don't have to tell me twice to get on stage because I love attention and I'm a ham. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I just behaved this way in front of these people. And then it was the last set of shows. She changed the set list a little bit to include a cover of Alanis Morissette's "You Ought to Know" and Meredith Brooks's "Bitch." And it was the first night for that run of shows. She did it, and I was like, "Oh, this is sick." And then she kind of like came over, and we had like a moment with like the mic, and like I was just like spitting into it, and then the following night, she did kind of the same thing. And then I remember she looked at me and she was like, come on up. And I was like, are you sure about this? And then that was it. She came up. I had the mic, singing Meredith Brooks, going down the catwalk. It was crazy. It's nerve-wracking to be up there because it looks a lot smaller than it does. And you're on like this tiny catwalk. And I'm like, and people are like sat right on it at like their specific tables. And I'm like, oh my God, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall. Especially during the group stage
Yeah.
event because there's so many people, so it gets like a little bit dicey because everyone's like trying to be around her and has like their phones out, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to be knocked over and pushed and fall in the crowd. I would die. I would be like, I can't be here anymore. But it's really cool, and it's still kind of like a pinch me surreal moment that we were able to share that. And I love like all the interactions. We I did the meet and greet there a couple times, and she was like, yeah, she's like, I always like look out in the crowd and you know every word, and you know it keeps me on track. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, of course, like I got you. I've listened to this music like every day for the past 20 years. Like we're good. And we have like those special moments that are really cool.
I love that. I just, I remember looking at my Instagram stories and I was like, Rich is on stage with Ashlee Simpson. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Mhm.
And then it just like every couple of months it would happen again in some way, shape, or form. And I was like, this is the best. This delicious. I love
It
it.
is. Yeah, yeah. I do. I'm thinking lately, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, it's so weird not to like have like the ability to go to Vegas and like see her show and like talk to her because it was from like August to January. So it was like there was one in August, one in September, and then January. I'm like, this is so weird not like being there like every couple months and like seeing
Mhm.
her. But I know she's I don't know if headlining is the right word, but she's performing at We Hope Pride in the beginning of June, and like there is a very strong part of me that's like just go kind of thing. I'm a little bit
Mhm.
like a little bit nervous to travel right now, but I'm like 90% committed, so I need to like physically sit down sometime this weekend and just be like, okay, I'm doing this. So hopefully I'll be able to see her in 2 months' time, less than 2 months' time.
Oh, I hope that works out for you because that would be wonderful.
It probably would. Like, I don't need money. I enjoy being broke. But like in all seriousness, it's just like these experiences where it makes me feel like myself again after being kind of a little bit detached from myself. Um, and like money returns, like it comes and
Hmm.
goes. And you can't replace those experiences. And I've never celebrated Pride outside of Toronto. So like that would be cool. It would be cool to see Jackie. There's a few other fans that I met in LA that live in LA to hang out with them and just like spend that time and see Ashlee and like celebrate Pride and party and whatever. Um, I think it will happen. I'm pretty sure it'll happen. I just need to one, not be sick, and two, not be lazy and price everything out.
Right. Work on the logistics of it.
Yeah. It's just the flight I have to work out. I'd be able to stay somewhere where I would just be able to crash. So it's just
That's
the flip.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny. Like I was looking at my photo album that I have on my phone of my supernatural photo ops and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I'm like, this is an obscene amount of money. Like this, like looking at my autograph collection, this is an obscene amount of money. Um, but it's gives you that little serotonin, that little return to yourself that you need that you mentioned.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's incredibly valuable, especially um, if you're somebody like me that like struggles with her mental health and you need all the help with serotonin that you can get. Anything like that is, I think, a good thing if you're not actively harming yourself or others. And you're not
Yeah.
doing that here. You're just trying to enjoy the world while it's actively on fire. And joy is radical. So why not?
Yeah. I'm very much so the same. I'm that person where like I love everything that I post on Instagram. Like I love my posts. I love my stories. Like I am fully cop to like 1,000,000% that I go back and like swipe through and watch all these things. I was doing it last night actually. And like my like moments that I posted of like Vegas. Like it's always so nice if I'm just like bored or like feeling a bit down or like what have you, or I just want to like relive the nostalgia and like capture that feeling. Like,
Yeah, and it gives you like the warm, fuzzy feelings and like the serotonin returns. Like it's not like a one and done shot.
mhm,
You get that dopamine rush again, and you get to remember those moments, the stories, and that go with the photos or the autographs or something like that. And I think that's really important
mhm,
to have something like that in your life, be
yeah,
it a pop star or an actor or a piece of media, what have you.
mhm.
I love it. So, what do you think our listeners should dive into Ashlee or another pop star and start with? Or why do you think they should?
Oh my God. Well, I think they should just, she only has three records out right now, so it's a very easy task to set aside, I don't know, what's 45 minutes times three, like 2.5 hours, like
Right, yeah.
look for her discography really, 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 really easily. Um, If I were to pinpoint though some like 100% like I don't know if deep cuts is the word because like I would say most of people who are familiar with Ash, I feel like anyone almost watched her show back in the day. So like everyone is very aware of like autobiography. I'm sure they're aware of like I Am Me. I don't know if anyone's really aware of Bittersweet World. So I'd say maybe start there if you aren't familiar with Ashlee. It's a little bit of a departure from the first two records where they're very much so like of their time, like early aughts pop rock, where the third record she brought in like Timbaland and his camp, and there's like some added production value in there. But there's some really cool songs on there that I think showed how her sound was maturing outside of kind of that like teen angsty like pop rock vibe. So on Bittersweet World, I would say No Time for Tears is a really good song because it shows a good evolution of her sound. Um, that one, there's a bonus track that I don't know if it's on streaming, but like it's probably on YouTube called Can't Have It All. I would say that that is probably top five Ashley songs for me because I think it again shows her sound evolving from her first two records, but like it also isn't too much of a departure where you're like, whoa, who is this individual? And I think the writing's good. I think the vocals are good. There's another bonus track called I'm Out that kind of, falls into the pattern of like evolving her sound and getting a little bit more mature. So I would say those three are probably standouts for those reasons, but it's a fun, silly record. I love the song Rule Breaker. That's my favorite song on that album, so I'll toss that in there too. I have the lyrics tattooed on me. It's very much so like rebellious, like bratty vibe, and I've always kind of subscribed to that kind of like destructive, sassy kind of like vibe in pop music. I really love that kind of like there's like an energy between like confidence, arrogance, and cockiness that it kind of like falls into. And like it's very much so like kind of like she puts on a character for the song. So it's fun. I have fun with that one. Off of I Am Me, I would coming back for more for sure. Like that one's probably like if someone was like, "What is your favorite Ashlee Simpson song?" I would say that one. Very dancey, very fun. I think it has some of her best writing, best melodies. It's super duper catchy. Should have been a single. Um, that one is cool. Catch Me When I Fall is very nice because it was written about her SNL experience the first time she was on there. And it's a very stripped down piano ballad. What else off of that record that I love just to capture a third? Oh, I like the title track I Am Me. It's probably one of the more like quote unquote harder songs in the pop rock kind of vein from her. So those three, and then I think everyone knows Autobiography. Um, I would say check out her EP with Evan. There's some cool stuff on there that shows kind of like the maturity in her voice. There's like a husky, like bluesy, the rasp is really, really there in some of them. But she does like dip into what I would classify as his sound, which is like this rhythmic pop, which is fun because I know her from, the pop rock side, and I thought she pulled it off quite well. Um, yeah, so I'd say like start there. And if you're someone who is emotional and wears their heart on their sleeves and is unapologetic about it, that I think you would connect with her music.
I love that. And you mentioned your tattoo. You have that in her handwriting, don't you?
Yeah, I have three. Three? Yeah, three. I have one for each record. I have my first one was the third record. I got it. I feel bad for this, like all these years later, but I had to do what I had to do. It was when Alexa Chung had her show on MTV.
Hmm.
It was similar to TRL for those who don't know, kind of. There was no like video countdown, but it was kind of like talk show style, and then they would have like a performance on the end. And she was doing promo for Melrose Place, the reboot at the time. Um, and I got to go with a friend, and they asked me, they're like, or they asked the crowd, they're like, "Oh, who wants to do like this segment with like Ashlee to do like musical charades?" And I was like, "Say no more." So I got to do it. And my friend and I were in like the back in the green room, like kind of getting prepped. And there was like a rule at MTV. It's like if you see the talent, like don't talk to them kind of thing. And of course, Ashley walked by and I was like, well, that's enough for me. And I pulled her aside and I was like, it was around my birthday too. And I was like, my birthday is like coming up and I want to get like a tattoo of like this song. Would you mind like writing out like your lyrics? And she took the time to do it. So that was the first one. And then I have Love as well in her handwriting. Same friend who was with me at the Alexa Chiming experience. I got to see Ashlee in Toronto because she was doing like a meet and greet with Jessica for Jessica's clothing line. They did like a collab together. And I had this originally written out for my friend, and I gave it to her, and she waited, I think, quite a long time to get it tattooed. And I moved to Toronto at this point, and I was living here, and I went back home, and we just kind of decided just to do the tattoo together, just to kind of, represent our friendship. And a lot of our friendship really revolves around like being fans of Ashlee. So that was number two. So I was like, okay, I have the second and third record. And I always kind of like struggled with the first record because a lot of autobiography is about like heartbreak. And I was like, I don't know what I would get to like represent that album. And I've thought about it for a long time, but I couldn't really like land on something. And I remember vivid memory. It was right before I was going to Vegas the first time this past year, and I was literally brushing my teeth at night. And I was just like in my head, just thinking about like the trip and stuff like that. And it just popped into my head. I was like, oh, there's this song. Ooh, yeah, this would be good for someone to check out too on Autobiography. It's a bonus track called Endless Summer. Very much so like California, like Laguna Beach, like kind of vibes musically. Um, but there's this lyric in there. It's some things always last. That's kind of like the hook at the end of the chorus. And I was like, wow, I was like, this would be such a cool, like, if I can, at that point, I was like, I don't know if I'm doing meet and greet. Um, I was like, if I get a chance to see her, I want her to write that out because it's such a representation of me being a fan of like 20 years and like the adoration hasn't waned at all. I was like, this would be like the perfect thing to represent the first record, and I just don't have that tattooed. So that's the last one. I know she's working on another record, and she has been for like quite a while. Um, so now I'm like, oh my God, if she releases the fourth record, I would obviously get another tattoo, but I'm like, where would I put it? Because I have a lot of little tattoos all over my body, but I don't like them all like in one space. And I'm
Right.
running like real estate. So I'm like, part of me is like, I do want new music. And then the other part's like, let's just keep it these three, because then I have to like put like another like bumper sticker on here and I don't know where to put it. But I'm sure I'll figure it out when that day comes.
I love that.
Mhm.
And I think it's so special getting to have those moments. And I love that you were just like, screw MTV, I'm gonna get my tattoo text done.
Yeah, and when I
Um,
went back for another showing for Alexa Chung's, I went with another group of friends. There was this intern there who came up to me and she's like, "Oh my God, you almost got me fired because you talked to Ashlee Simpson the last time." And I was like, "I'm sorry, I just had to do what I had to do." And like, she
yeah,
obviously got fired, but I was like, maybe that's why you're not supposed to talk to the talent.
yeah. Oh gosh.
What is the
Okay.
saying? It's better to ask for
For
forgiveness
forgiveness
than
than
beg for
permission.
permission. It was very much so that. Yeah, very much
Yeah.
so that.
You can always say sorry
Yeah,
afterwards. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't mean anything malicious. I just had to get a tattoo.
You did what you had to do, and I respect that.
I really did what I had to do.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share about your fandom in general, specifically? Anything else you want people to know?
I think at like a macro level, away from like Ashlee, any other artists that I've talked about, something that I really like the frequency that I've tuned into lately as I've gotten older is there's always I don't know if this is like this for everybody, but like for me, sometimes it's like a little bit of like the perception of liking pop music and like as I'm 36 now, so I'm closer to, unfortunately, 40 than anything else. It's very much so like a younger kind of like demographic or listener. And there's, I think my days of like listening to new artists, unless they're like really inescapable or like behind me, I just can't connect because I'm not in that like phase of life anymore. But there's always kind of like this like label around pop music where it's like it's not serious, it's not deep, it's not real music, it's this, it's that, blah blah. And it's like, you know what? If it makes me happy and like I think it's cool and it brings me joy, like I don't believe in guilty pleasures. Like I don't, I like what I like. And I think in this time that we live in and kind of how the world is and like this vibe around us, I will say, it's very hard to find like those like glimmers of hope or happiness or joy. So it's like when I see somebody, and it doesn't even have to be music, like I love when someone like geeks out about their interests. Like I work with this girl and one of her hobbies is she collects pencils. And I was like, I've never heard of this. So like I want to ask more questions so I can just be like, what is this? And the way that she just like lights up when she talks about it and she knows everything. She's just so passionate about it. I'm like, you know what? That is cool. I'm like, I can't relate to the pencils, but I can relate to the feeling that you're having right now. And that is so awesome that I think like if you love something, like I'm very much so subscribed to like shout it from the rooftop. I think there are times where like I have a lot of self-awareness for myself where I'm like, oh my God, you're being so annoying. Like the last 2 years of Brat has been like, I think I've like shoved it down like every person in the world's like throat, even though they are very aware of the record. But I'm like, you know what? All this shit is really cool. The music is cool. The attitude is cool. I love seeing like other fans online like do something creative when it comes to something I like. Like there was a lot of different like edits and like graphic design for like Brat, just to call out one example that I just love. I love seeing people go hard for the things that they love. So like the thing that I would say to everybody is like don't be shy or embarrassed about like things that you like. You're not the only person that likes it. There's probably someone out there that goes just as hard for it. And if they don't, they probably go hard for something that they love and you can, share that sort of kind of, that feeling and that connection, even if you're like worlds apart.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I'm trying to highlight with this project is that we all have something that makes us feel that way inside, that like indescribable feeling. Um, and trying to like get at what it is and share it with others because it's so much fun, like your coworker, getting to hear them just geek out. Um, like I'm not a big pop music listener, but I've been enthralled listening to you. And my friend, one friend is going to talk to me about Route 66,
Mm,
which is not like what you would expect on a fandom podcast. But I think that's just like the coolest thing. Like that's her interest, and
yeah.
I can't fucking wait for it.
Yeah, I agree. Like I actually think it's like lame to like be embarrassed or like pretend like you're like too cool for school and like kind of like hide this thing. It's like no, if you think something's like dope, like spread it because then that at the end of the day is kind of like a really easy form of like human connection for me. And like we are like wired as human beings to have like some sort of connection and community, even if it's on like a smaller scale where like you just said, like you're not a huge fan of pop music and we have similar tastes in music, but I think like there's a very small like overlap. But like I know that your passion for music, live music, what it means to you, how it makes you you is something that I share because I love music for that same way. So like we might not, you might not have the same, adoration for Ashlee and like ditto for like Frank Turner, but the way that we both go about, our passions is something that's super similar. And I think that's part of our connection and friendship. And that's community at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we're not in the same fandoms, but it's like that TikTok sound. We're from the same place, the Bronx, the world. Like that's us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love it. Oh my goodness. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for talking with me and sharing your love. I love you, and I love your love for things, as I've said. Um, and I hope that other people have found something to love by listening to you.
I know. I hope anyone who's listening and is maybe rediscovering Ashlee or listening to her for the first time or checking out something that I've said, get at me. I would love to talk about it. I love sharing my opinion and I love obviously talking about the things that I like. So anyone listening, reach out. Val, if you decide to dive into Ashlee after this, feel free to hit me up. And the sentiment is the same. We've been, friends for a very long time. And I have a lot of love and respect and, I don't know what the third thought would be. So it just like escaped and vanished out of my brain. But um, it's definitely, a relationship that, I value and I'm happy to, have met you all those years ago when we were following Cobra Starship around the East Coast. Maybe that's something we can do later down the road. Maybe we can
Yeah,
have
we'll have a
Cobra.
Cobra episode.
You know what? I am there because there's I've started to like go back into like my older playlists sometimes and I'm just like, oh, I'm like, I haven't heard these songs in forever. I'm like, and it just like brings me back when like Cobra
Yeah,
sneaks in. So when you're ready, I'm ready.
hell yeah.
Mhm.
There's so many bangers. Like
There's lots of
we
bangers.
we had a lot of fun traipsing
Hmm.
around the East Coast.
I know that was like the best time of my life, I feel like, or like one of the best times. Like I would just give anything just to relive that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was magical for sure. Well, I
We'll
love
do
you
it.
so
We'll do
much.
it.
We'll do
But
this. We will have a Cobra episode in the future.
perfect.
And thank you so much for everybody for listening.
Thank you guys.